Hello and welcome to Ringo Rama. My guest today. Hello and welcome to Ringo Rama. My guest today has written 3 books, Songs We Were Singing, a guide for the Beatles' lesser-known tracks, Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop, and the newest one, Fandom and the Beatles. Welcome to the show, Kit O Toole.
Thank you, Lucas. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just so thrilled that you started this Ringo-centric podcast. It's about time that there was one.
Yeah.
Long time coming.
We're here today to talk about Ringo's Rotogravure, his 76 album.
Indeed. Yeah, this was a very interesting one in Ringo's career. It was kind of a turning point in his musical and personal career in many ways. I think you can hear it in the songs, and we'll be talking about that as we go through this track by track. But it's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a turning point commercially and with the production sound.
Indeed, yes, he was working with a new producer. He of course had changed record labels at this point. He had left EMI and had moved on and was working with a very well-respected producer at this point. He had wanted to work with Richard Perry, continued working with him, but then moved on with Arif Martin, who is worked with innumerable artists, and they got along extremely well, but he had a different way of working. Apparently, Ringo said in an interview that apparently Richard Perry made him do umpteen, takes of every song, and that's not how Martin worked. He said he'd do 9 takes or something. So it was a different style. So it had a bit of a different sound to it.
Yeah, it's a bit more funk influenced, and Ringo's vocals are really down in the mix this album instead of Ringo or Goodnight Vienna, where they're up in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, you particularly hear that on something like Hey Baby and others. Yeah, I mean, you definitely hear more background singers and a lot of background singers on this album. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely, down in the mix a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Like the list of background singers in this album, it's 50. The problem with the CD booklet, though, it's all arranged weird because it was a 90s issue. So you open the booklet and you're straight smack dab in the lyrics of You Don't Know Me at All.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and one of the prominent backup vocalists on this was Melissa Manchester. You can really hear her in some of the tracks. But and that's the thing on this album. Boy, he really Martin assembled just an all-star cast of people. Now, some of them were Ringo's friends to begin with. I mean, some of the old standbys still make appearances here. Dr. John and right. So I mean, they're some of the old standbys. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But you also get some of the top session guys of the time, like the Brecker brothers on horns. I think Will Lee was in there. He wasn't as well known then as he is now, but I mean, he was there. I mean, just top guys. I mean, just the cream of the crop.
Yeah. Well, there's also, there's a lot of gatefold albums instead of Goodnight Vienna isn't a gatefold, but this one, it's on a new label, so it's back to gatefold. Pretty deluxe package, too. I don't even think Ringo had the printed inner.
Yep, exactly. And I think and now I was 4 years old when this came out, so I don't know this personally, but apparently when this came out, like some of the copies even came with a magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass.
Yeah.
I've scoured eBay far and wide to get a copy of that magnifying glass. Never seen it.
I never have either. I mean, how cool is that? So, I mean, boy, they went all out, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was a promotional tool, the magnifying glass, because I've seen a picture of a promo-only one.
Yep, I've never found one either. If anyone out there has it, love to see it.
Yeah. So should we just get smack dab into the track by track?
Let's do it.
So we start with a Dose of Rock and Roll. This is a Carl Grossman cover. He was on Ringo Records.
Yep, and so yeah, they definitely wanted to start this off with a bang. And in fact, it's interesting how it starts off with just they just get right into it. I mean,
And then we go down into the dirge right after that first 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's a very strange, a strangely abrupt turn. And I think this was the first, well, in fact, maybe no, it wasn't the only single. It was the first single in the U.S. And, you know, and this is you're going to hear me say this many times during our chat here today, that, you know, the backing track is great. You know, this, again, what can you say? This is just a top band. I mean, you know, of just the best players out there. You know, the bass, I mean, you know, as you said at the top of the show, you know, this is a surprisingly funky kind of album. So, I mean, the bass on this is...
Yeah, you've got Klaus Voormann, who was on the Ringo album and on a lot of things.
Who I really think is, you know, doesn't get enough credit for as good a bassist as he is. I mean, you know, I've really, as the years have gone on and on, I've really come to appreciate him, not only for his, you know, incredible role in the Beatles' history, but just as a bassist. You know, he is really good. I mean, really not flashy, but just knows, you know, how to underscore, you know, those percussion lines. Just really, really good. And then you get, my gosh, I mean, for the guitarist, Peter Frampton, Jesse Ed Davis, David Kortchmar, Danny Kortchmar, excuse me. What a group. You know, it's just, you know, Dr. John on keys, and you know, what a band. It's just great. But it's just, you know, it's a great little rocker. I just don't find it that distinctive. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's there, it's fun. But I don't think it was a great choice for a first single. I will say what I think should have been the first single later on in the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a choice for a couple better singles here.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, as I said, it's fine. You know, it's a fun rocker, but it's just not what I would say is like that distinctive. But it's played well. Oh, what?
26.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I mean, looking further on, if one of those later era songs got to number 26, it would have been like heralded as a comeback hit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, and it's just that odd transition at the beginning, as you said, that they come like full on at the beginning and he's screaming, and then it suddenly goes to this slow, it's just a strange transition. But I can see they wanted to start the album off with a bang, and
yeah. Maybe the attention of people listening on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just don't think this is one of his best. You know, I've heard him rock better than this.
Yeah. And actually, at the end of the song, we actually get a bit that leads into the next song, Hey Baby.
Yeah, and I wonder if he did that on purpose, or did he just...
I think they did A Dose of Rock and Roll first, and then at the end, they were kind of jamming it out and doing a little bit of Hey Baby, and then they're like, oh, we should record this.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been. It must have been. This is I think this is a fun cover. You know, it's first of all, great song to begin with. It certainly has, you know, a Beatles connection, as we all know. You know, since Bruce Channel, supposedly helped John, kind of taught John about the harmonica and so forth. So they kind of have, Ringo has a little bit of a personal connection to the song, but I'm not saying it makes you forget the original, but it certainly doesn't. But it's kind of a fun, he turns it into almost, a little bit of a sing-along in a way,
Yeah.
changes the beat a little bit. As I said, I'm not saying it makes you forget the original, but it's a sort of a fun cover. Like you can kind of picture this, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. It's almost like a bar band kind of cover,
Yeah, I was
like
thinking like just a big sing along in a pub.
exactly, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. So it's a decent cover. Love Dr. John's piano
Yeah.
on this track. Wow, he was a legend.
Well, actually, Dr. John isn't credited. It says it's John Jarvis.
No kidding. God, that sounded like Dr. John. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I definitely felt like Dr. John because he's a presence. He's very much a presence on this album.
He really is. I am stunned. Wow, because I thought that sounded just like him. That's amazing.
Yeah, even on the CD it says John Jarvis.
I'll be darned. Wow. Well, kudos to John Jarvis because I thought the piano on this.
Yeah, if you hear the rough mix, which I have a couple different bootlegs of the rough mix.
Oh, really? Oh, I haven't heard that.
Well, there's a video version. If you see the Hey Baby music video, there's a different mix in that.
Oh, no kidding. I haven't seen that. Wow.
And I have a very bad copy sent to me by a friend, which is basically the video mix, but it has like a little bit more bass, a little bit more drums.
Interesting. Oh, I'd like to hear that.
You hear like a lot of piano coming out in the fade out.
Wow. Yeah, the piano on this is just, I mean, it just sounds so incredible. That's one of the standouts of this cover. But yeah, it's like a big sing along, and that's fine. I mean, it's a little bit of, he puts a little of his own spin on it, which is nice. I like that. So yeah, this is probably one of my favorites off this album. But
yeah,
as I said, doesn't make you forget the original. It doesn't. I wouldn't say it surpasses the original.
And the single, I think it peaked at something like 77 or something. It was not a hit, but I can think of a lot of later Ringo era chart placements that hit around that.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely.
So the third song, we go back to the Beatle connection here with Pure Gold.
Yes, this is something Paul McCartney wrote for Ringo, and apparently it was inspired by his Ringo's then fiance Nancy Lee Andrews and their sort of relationship.
Yeah.
And it, I love Paul, I really do, but I don't think this is one of Paul's better compositions.
This is a throwaway. This is more of a throwaway than something like 6 O'Clock or Attention.
Yes. Yep. Or Private Property.
Maybe not as much a throwaway as Angel in the Skies, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was not. Yeah, that was not one of his finer moments. I agree. But yeah. So yeah, maybe not quite that on that level of throwaway. But yeah, this was not one of Paul's better ones. And Paul and Linda did sing back this, which
they were on a break from the Wings Over America tour, and they came down just in time, and they sang a little bit of the background.
Yeah, yep, it was kind of a kind of luck that they happened to be in town. It has kind of a slight 50s doo-wop kind of feel to it. It just doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, it just, I mean, it's just one of those songs that it just really doesn't have a real point. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
A little middle of the road. I don't know. What I like about it a lot is towards the end of it, you can hear like Paul saying some like random stuff during the chorus.
That's true. You do hear that. And you can hear Linda a little bit in the background, which is kind of nice. So you can hear her voice a little bit. But it's just the lyrics. I guess I just can't get past the lyrics, you just keep thinking, God, Paul, you can do better than this. I mean, it's just, it's a nice, nice intentions, but it just doesn't really get off the ground,
Actually, on this album, it actually credits Ringo and Vinnie Poncia with dual lead vocals.
Interesting.
Never knew
Boy,
that.
I don't hear that at all. I mean, I hear Ringo for sure.
What
But
says for vocals, Ringo and Vinnie Poncia?
huh? Boy, I don't know. I mean, I can't really hear Vinny in there. I mean,
Yeah, you can pick Vinnie out in like "Oh My" or something like that.
exactly. But
I
that's
don't know I
interesting
can hear.
because I don't really. I mean, I'd have to really listen to it again very carefully and see, because yeah, he doesn't really stand out in that at all. So that's interesting. Is yeah, I mean, because Ringo you could definitely hear. Paul and Linda you sure can hear. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that as I said, not one of Paul's finer songwriting moments, and yeah, not 6 o'clock or Private Property. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
So moving on, the fourth song is one of the highlights of this album, in my opinion, "Crying."
I completely agree, Lucas. I love when Ringo goes country. And I saw one of your previous episodes where
I
I
don't
know
really
you're
like
not.
Beaucoups of Blues.
I know you don't, and and I'm not a big country fan. I'll admit. It's not one of my favorite genres. I like some of it. I don't like, but I do love when Ringo goes country because
Yeah.
he has such
Well,
an
I like all of his non-Beaucoups of Blues country tracks. Like I really like some like "Sometimes" from Vertical Man era.
Yep, he does. And I like Beaucoups Blues because I just and for the reason that I like Crying, because he has such clear affection for country. I mean, he obviously loves it, and his voice seems to really suit it. Like he really, because I mean he does have, and I found some reviews and interviews that he did for Rotogravure at the time, which I'll bring up later in the show, where he talks about his vocal range, and he says some pretty funny things about it. But his range really suits a lot of these country songs. He really can sell them, and this is a great example of Crying. It's really charming, great guitar work in the song. Some interesting time signatures too. Um, and that just the whole kind of feeling of a country song that's kind of, it's melancholy, and his voice just suits that. And yeah, I agree. This is one of the highlights of the album. I love his country stuff.
It's a Vinnie Poncia co-write also.
Indeed, and yeah, they know how to write a pretty good country song. I mean, they can, they know the genre pretty well, and as I said, Ringo has such a clear love for it, and it really comes through in in songs like this, and so I'm so glad that he in this period that he always had a country song on there.
Yeah. It's just a little weird, you have Pete Drake on pedal steel, which I believe it's Pete Drake. It says Sneaky Pete, but I think that's one of those record label Richie snare things.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it sounds like him. He was so good.
I mean, Ringo and Pete Drake were already friends because of Beaucoups of Blues and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and the steel guitar on there is so good. I mean, it really is.
So moving on to the fifth song, the side one closer, and a single in Belgium, I think. "You Don't Know Me at All."
Okay, this is what I think should have been the first single.
I was just about to say that. It's a great number. It's one of the highlights of this album, in my opinion.
Me too. I just think this was way catchier. Catchier. Yeah. I mean, it just really, it has some interesting chord changes. It's got cowbell, for God's sake. It has some fun backing vocals. I mean, it's got that shooby-doo. I mean, it's, it's fun. I mean, it's really fun. Some great bass playing on there. I love the bass. And that would have fit in with the time. We're talking 76, so it had a little bit of danceability to it. So that would have fit in with, with
there
that.
was a promotional film for it.
Yep, they had, exactly. You
and
had
there
that.
was a 45 mix created, which is an alternate mix, which has like a lot of the flares taken off. It's a very interesting mix. It's kind of unplugged a little.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I think I've heard that before. It's been a while, but I think
it's a rarity.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard it long time ago. I'll have to go back and listen to it. But and then it just really has, it sticks with you. It kind of it sticks in there, and his vocals are good on it. Ringo's, I mean, just really just it suits him. I think this song really suits his range.
Yeah.
And why this wasn't the first single, I mean, I think this sticks out way more. I think it just is I just think it hits more of the right notes for what was popular at the time, and just in general, it's a catchy single.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song.
Exactly. And so if I had been on the label at the time, I would have said, yeah, this is the first single.
Yeah.
But no one asks us. No one asks us.
If I was on the label, I'd make sure they throw all these unreleased tracks we don't have onto the B-sides.
Yep. That's right. Exactly.
Make sure the magnifying glass was easier to get.
That's right. That's the other thing. Yeah, put that magnifying glass in every release. That's right.
It's already a pretty expensive album to make with the gatefold and the printed inner. Full color gatefold also.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that was really, that wasn't cheap to do. That's for sure.
There were a lot of promo copies pressed to this album too.
Yep, they were really, and as I said, I'll mention it later. Ringo did a lot of interviews for this album. I mean, they were.
You see a lot of interviews on like Dutch TV and stuff like that, where he's got a shaved head and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was not a good one.
In some of those interviews, it almost kind of looks like him about 5 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. Yeah, the label was really pushing this album. That's for sure.
Yeah. So moving on, flipping the record over, we have Cooking in the Kitchen of Love, a John Lennon.
Okay. You know what? I'm kind of a defender of this song because I mentioned this song on an episode of Talk More Talk. And I had a few people give me a little guff for it. And I'm not saying this is one of John's best. It's, in terms of songwriting, it isn't. But it's kind of fun. I mean,
it's a fun, playful song. I enjoy it.
Exactly. I mean, I would not rate this among Ringo's best. I would not rate this among John's best as a songwriter. But for what it is, it's fun. It's you find yourself. Let me put it this way: the more you listen to it, you find yourself tapping your foot and kind of singing along, whether you like it or not.
Another fun thing on the inner sleeve, credits Dr. John with guitar.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, yep. I mean, I mean, you don't really think of Dr. John playing the guitar, do you? But he was what a talent he was.
Yeah.
And who was Klaus on bass on this one?
You have Will Lee on bass.
Oh, Willie, I thought that sounded a little more complicated, a little flashier than Klaus usually plays.
It's very good though.
It is. I mean, it's for what it is. It's really catchy, particularly the chorus and the bridge. Those are my two favorites. Are the lyrics silly? Sure, but they're not meant to be brainy. I mean, this is just a fun kind of dance tune, and I think Ringo sounds like he's having fun while he's singing this. I mean, it's and then of course John plays the piano.
Yeah, John's on the piano and Dr. John again is on the organ.
Yep, exactly. It's for what it is, it's a fun song. So I'm a bit of a defender of this one. That I just I think this song's gotten a lot of grief over the years, and I just say lighten up.
Yeah. And then we move on to the most expensive song on the album for Ringo, I'll Still Love You.
Yes. Yep. Apparently George really didn't like Ringo's version. Yep, and this song has a long history too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes back till Ronnie Spector and Cilla Black in 1971. It even goes back to All Things With Past there. It's very...
Yes. Yep. Yeah, George first wrote this in 1970. First called it, as we all know, George sometimes had struggled with titling songs. He first started, apparently it was called Whenever, but then copyrighted it with the title When Every Song Is Sung. And he had originally intended it for Shirley Bassey, who was best known for the theme song for Goldfinger. And she also had a hit at the time in 1970 with a cover of something. So that's why he then wrote this song intending it for her, but somehow that didn't work out. And apparently he did record a version of this during the All Things Must Pass sessions.
Yeah, there was a run through of it.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that as part of the box set this year. I'd love to hear it.
I think the tracks are all listed, but I have it on a Rotogravure Deluxe Edition bootleg.
Oh, do you? Oh, wow. Okay, I'd love to hear his rendition.
It fades in weird, too. It fades in with, just in the middle of a chorus.
Oh, so it's not even like a complete version?
It's 5 minutes, though, so...
Oh, okay, well, that's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good.
It's great sound quality. It sounds like it could have been on Early Takes Volume 1.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Boy, I'd love to hear that. So then, as you said, he then had Ronnie Spector. He worked on it with Ronnie Spector. He worked on it with Cilla Black. Those versions, I guess, were never released, although then Cilla Black did do a version for a collection for it was for a 2003 compilation called The Best of Cilla Black. So... yeah, there was this kind of tangled history, and then finally Ringo, took a crack at it, and apparently, George really didn't like his version and sued him.
Enough to sue Ringo.
Yeah, what?
And he didn't like it enough to sue Ringo.
Yep, yeah, that's right. And they settled out of court apparently.
Yeah.
So
In the interview they did for, I don't remember, but it was like Aspel & Co. in '88. Ringo was still yelling at George about it.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a sore spot for a long time. As far as the song itself, I don't love the lyrics. I think George could have tweaked those a little bit more. I like the backing track. I mean, it's although. It's one of those songs that I think, I don't love much as Arif Mardin, was a legend as a producer and arranger and all that. I think the arrangement was wrong on this. It just, I feel like this cried out for more maybe something more dramatic, like some strings maybe. I mean, this just seemed like the wrong arrangement. It didn't seem to have the, I don't know, impact or the drama that this required. It just didn't seem. And Ringo, we love Ringo, we really do, obviously, but I didn't think he was the right singer for this.
Yeah.
He really wasn't.
But going into an analogy I created a couple days ago, I think this album, I think this is Ringo's Sgt. Pepper.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. How so?
Album. It starts with the the intro with the dose of rock and roll, and that goes into Hey Baby, just like the first 2 tracks on Pepper. And I think
Okay.
I'll Still Love You is kind of like Ringo's Within You, Without You.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That's an interesting analogy. kind of experimental.
Yeah, it kind of started out as a joke, though, because Ringo's Rotogravure and Sgt. Pepper just seemed like completely from different sides of the world.
Planets? Yeah, planets, yeah. Oh, that's funny. I will never think of those 2 albums the same way again, Lucas.
When Ringo said it was like pictures and a Rotogravure.
Mm-hmm. I love that I read that he came up with the title by watching, and I know this movie very well, Easter Parade with Judy Garland and Fred Astaire. I don't know, like, oh my God, I know that movie. And there was one of the songs mentions, I think it's the song Easter Parade about, being seen in the Rotogravure, which was like a magazine of the time. So, and I think he just thought the word sounded cool. And it is a cool sounding word. So, I mean, it's just, yeah. It was like, oh my gosh, I know that movie. But anyway.
Yeah, it's about the loosest concept album I can think of.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a concept album? Okay.
Little.
Kinda.
And then we move on to, in my opinion, the low point of this album. This Be Called the Song.
This is another one that, like, it kind of had good intentions, and yeah, it just doesn't really work. I mean, the lyrics, it's almost like, I feel so bad. I feel like I'm ripping on everybody on this show, but I mean, Eric Clapton, we love Eric Clapton, but it's like Eric Clapton worked on the backing tracks and then thought, oh shoot, I forgot I have to write some lyrics.
Some of these lyrics are like, let your umbrella be your friend. These are some confusing lyrics.
I mean, it just thought, okay, that sounds fine. This Be Called a Song. Yeah, fine.
This Be Called a Song.
Yeah, I mean, the lyrics. Yeah, and I think he even, I forget the precise, I'm paraphrasing here, but I mean, it basically was like, okay, I need to write you a song. This, I'm writing you a song. Here you go. I mean,
the choruses are very inventive, though. This Be Called a Song X3 and This Be Called a Song X5 at the end.
Right. So you just want to say, Eric, put a little effort into it. I mean, I do like the steel drum accents. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, that was kind of an interesting touch. And, again, some funky bass in there, lead guitar, nice lead guitar from Eric. But,
Conti in the backing vocals.
Yes, exactly. So you've got that. So, like, it's another one of these cases where on this album where it's like the playing is great. You've got these incredible, musicians on here, but the material just doesn't add up, and the lyrics. I mean, you just think, as Ringo was singing these, did he ever turn to Eric and say, seriously?
I feel like this could have been switched out for maybe like Free Ships in the Harbor or The Party or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just
maybe not the 33 verses version of Free Ships in the Harbor.
Exactly. So, and it's really a shame because, I mean, you're just like, my God, you've got Eric Clapton, you've got, all these incredible players, and yeah, I mean, it's just, you just can't get past those silly lyrics. Maybe if it had just been an instrumental, that would have been better.
Yeah, but Ringo's barely a presence on the drums.
Yeah, exactly.
Really Jim Keltner doing the work, and Ringo's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, and that's another disappointment. Yeah, that you don't get, enough of Ringo on there either. I mean, he just kind of gets lost in all of this.
Really deal with a lot of second drummers in these Ringo albums, really up until Time Takes Time and Vertical Man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's where he really, regains his mojo. Yeah, Time Takes Time.
Yeah, just listening to isolated drum tracks on something like Runaways, you can just hear he just gets into a groove.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love Time Takes Time.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought that was best album since
Ringo and Vertical Man. Those are my free albums.
Yep. Oh, just incredible. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, Time Takes Time. I know I won't go off track here as I know we're talking about this album, but Time Takes Time should have done way better.
Didn't even chart.
I know it's a
Way of the
crime.
World hit 74 and Hey Baby hit 77. So.
Yep. I mean
better.
Yeah. I mean that did better. Than, I mean, unbelievable. But that's another show. Oh man.
So you have Las Brisas, the 9th track, which is Andrew Starkey alphabetically written.
Yes, indeed. This track has charm to it. It's of course Ringo co-wrote this with Nancy Andrews.
They were on the trip or at a Mexican restaurant or something, and they really were getting into it. And then they got the Mexican restaurant band to play on it, which is
I know. I think that's kind of neat, and it's a fun. Job. Yeah, exactly. It's a fun song. It's not one of his best or anything, but again, he could sell it. He can sell it, and I just think it his personality can really carry it off, and it's kind of like he had done with something like Ringo, his previous song, that it's one of those songs where you can almost imagine him on stage singing this, like in music hall or something. You know what I mean?
And you have Vinnie Poncia, the sole backing vocalist in this track.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, I mean, I think it's charming. I mean, I can imagine, playing this on vacation. And not the mariachi band's great. I think that was a great touch. And it's, I just think it's as I said, it's a charming song. And I wouldn't say it's like the best on the album, but I can, the lyrics I think are it's just an ode to Mexico and the, and the beauty of it and everything. And it's really it's a fun song. It's a light, charming song, and I like it for what it is.
Yeah, so we're moving on to one of the underrated songs in this album, in my opinion, Lady Gay. This is the last track.
Yes.
This is the last track.
Sort of, yeah. And boy, is it interesting to play the song that it's based on, the original, the Clifford T. Ward's Birmingham, because boy, good thing that they credited Clifford T. Ward as a co-songwriter on this. It isn't. I mean, it's other than the lyrics. I mean, it's not different at all. And because boy, it's. I mean, as I said, other than the lyrics, it really isn't any different. It's a fun song. I like the. Again, the band plays this extremely well. I think Ringo sounds like he's having a ball singing this, and it's really. To me, it sounds, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, it sounds very 70s. Like it's like very 70s, sort of middle of the road rock.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean it's very much of its time. And again, not saying that in a negative way. It's just like. I really, when you hear both the original and this version, it just like really takes you back, like for me, I'm like, yeah, boy, this is, I just remember like when this sound was really big.
Yeah, sorry, I just had an audio issue there.
Oh, no problem.
The writing credits were it's Poncia Starkey, Clifford T. Ward.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they had to give him credit. Or they would have been in big trouble. Yeah, I mean that's
very also in the backing vocals. It's a great backing vocal line.
Yes. Yeah, the backing vocals are very important on this song. That's for sure. Yeah.
And next is the last song. This is the day in the life of this album. Yeah, spooky weirdness.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, just crucial to this album.
It's amazing.
I jammed to this in my car.
Yeah.
Why did they put this on? I mean, I'm just like, why? Why did they, unless they're like, oh, we've got to fill the time.
They were having a laugh in the studio with some vocal effects, and then Ringo said, that's the way the album ends, or something. And it was just kind of a joke that they carried on to the album.
It had to be.
It's not needed. It's probably like it's probably one of the Ringo's worst songs.
Yes. Oh, hands down.
Songs.
Hands down. I mean, you're just like, yeah, because when you first put it on, you're like, what is this? And yeah, and then it just ends.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny joke. That's it.
Yep. It's an in joke. It's got to be an in joke.
So we do have there's a lot of unreleased songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna go through them. We have "Leave the Rest to Molly," which is an Alan Toussaint thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and of course that wasn't the first time he had covered Alan Toussaint. Yeah, exactly.
And then later on Ringo the Fourth.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, and of course, Alan Toussaint is is a legend, and wrote so many incredible songs, and so that was one. And wasn't there?
What?
Go ahead.
Say, which is.
I'm sorry. What was it?
What do you say? That's the second outtake.
Okay. Now, which one was that? That was. I'm not sure if I know that one.
These are this is just 8 Arms to Hold You. I don't even know about any of these songs. They're never seen.
No, because I don't know that one. Wow. Yeah, and these are rare.
I Can Hear You Calling.
That one I've heard of. That he referred to that. That was referred to in an interview that he did when he was around the time he was promoting this album, and then it was dropped for.
It's gonna be a B-side.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Then it was dropped, and it was funny because it was also he referred. This interviewer referred to Lady Gay, although it was, it was just Gay with the E dropped, and there were a number of titles that the interviewer got totally wrong. But that was
2 unrecorded tracks. You have "The Party," written by Harry Nilsson.
Yep.
And
I've heard about that.
3 Ships in the Harbor, which has 43 verses in Ringo's version. Then Harry Nilsson cut it down to 10.
Gee, I can't imagine why that version didn't make it.
It must have been an epic.
Yeah, it had to have been. I mean, 43 verses? Holy cow.
Picking up the entire side.
Yeah, I mean, what? Wow.
Probably wouldn't have even had space for spooky weirdness.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you had to have spooky weirdness.
What if it was a 6-track album?
Yeah, really. I mean, clearly we see why that was cut.
Yeah, but we do have one outtake,
which is
Just a Dream. We have one Rotogravure outtake that's been saved.
Yes, that was, and it's definitely very of its time. I mean, it is disco. I mean, it is a disco, theme track, and I'm not putting it down. I like. I'm a defender of disco, so I'm not one of the people that I'm not a disco sucks person. I like disco. So
I haven't listened to Ringo the Fourth yet, but from what I've heard, I think this might be a highlight of that era.
I was about to say that this fits right in with Ringo the Fourth. This song.
I like it as a little funky Rotogravure outtake.
It is. I mean, it is. Yeah. But I will say that it fits way more in with Ringo the Fourth. Oh yeah, you've got to listen to Ringo the Fourth.
The episode coming up. I don't have a guest set yet, but it's gonna be fun.
Oh, I mean, if you want to, yeah, we did, Talk More Talk. We did an episode on Ringo the Fourth. So
Yeah,
any of us will be happy to come on. Yeah, it was. We did another listen on that, and
yeah. We did another listen on Bad Boy too, which is the remix.
yep, we
Very
did
good.
one on Bad Boy. Yep, and Ringo the Fourth. I mean, that it's always been considered. Oh, everybody hates that album and all, but I mean, they're. I look at it, and this song we're talking about is a perfect example. It's a time capsule. It was. It's the music. He was imitating. The music that was popular at the time. I mean, it was disco. He was attempting to do that. Some of the songs definitely didn't work. But this one,
isn't really a dance album, and Just a Dream is a dance track.
exactly, this is a dance track. And it actually,
The reason it got left off the album.
yeah, I mean, I think, it's really, one of the better disco tracks dance tracks that he's done. Just a Dream. It's really, not bad. I mean, it does what it should do, get you on the floor. And and it's pretty good, but I can see why it didn't make this one. It didn't make Rotogravure because it's a little too dancey for this one.
Sessions. Also, one last thing on Ringo the Fourth. My favorite thing about that album is on the song "Out on the Streets" or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, you have an inner groove, which is a bit of street.
And yeah, that's right.
For the CD, the cutting engineer messed it up. And there's like a whole bunch more street noise that isn't on the album that's on the CD.
Oh, wow.
I think that's probably the best CD bonus track of all time. About 10 more seconds of just like car horns.
I'd take that to spooky weirdness. I'd rather listen to that than spooky weirdness.
There was no inner groove because, I mean, if they got spooky weirdness on the album, they definitely could have thrown in like a cymbal crash in the inner groove or something.
Exactly. There you go.
So do you have a like out of 10 ranking?
Out of 10. I would probably, oh boy, I'm trying to think. I don't want to be too harsh.
7.
Yeah, what do you give it?
I'd give it like a 7.
Oh, a 7. Oh my gosh.
I think it's better than Goodnight Vienna.
I'd probably give this a 5.
I'm a strong defender of this album.
Yeah, because there are few moments on here. There are few nice moments on here, but there are just too many for me moments where there's songs that just don't go anywhere or lyrics that kind of mar the song, and a few moments where, I mean, there's some songs where Ringo has a great vocal. It's not that his voice sounds bad. It doesn't sound bad on the album at all. It's just that there's some songs where, he sounds like he's having a great time, and then there are others where he sounds kind of not interested, sounds a little disconnected.
He sounds like he's very much in the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So it's uneven. It's an uneven album.
On the back of this album, though, the Apple Building.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
That's magnifying glass. You can go and look at it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's why I think that's one of the reasons why he wanted to put in the magnifying glass so you could look. And as I said, if anybody out there has that magnifying glass,
let us know.
Let us know. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So okay, let me think. I have the rankings. I've been doing the rankings of all Ringo albums. This is a separate thing, but this just for description, it goes under the Ringo album and above Goodnight Vienna.
Interesting.
It's second place for now, but it will get dethroned once we hit the 90s.
Okay. Getting into the 90s will be interesting. Yep.
So,
well,
thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This was such a great time. I'd come back anytime.
Yeah. Anything you want to plug?
Let's see. Well, I'm going to be doing on, I don't know if this will be out by July 7th, but I'm going to be doing a lecture on Motown in the 70s, which will be free and online. through the Avalon Free Public Library. The links are on both the Talk More Talk Solo Beatles videocast page and on my Facebook page.
All right.
All right.
That's the way the podcast ends. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And then that's how Spooky Weirdness comes out with the drums. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Yeah. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Peace and love.